Let's be honest. Nothing messes with your mind quite like silence. You've been talking to someone you genuinely care about. The conversations felt real. The connection seemed strong. And then, suddenly, it stops. No more texts, no more calls, no more signs of life. But here's the catch. She hasn't blocked you. She hasn't unfollowed you. She's still there, quiet, almost like a ghost, but not quite. If you're here, chances are you're stuck in that uncomfortable in-between, wondering what it all means. Is she losing interest? Testing you? Has she moved on without saying it? Or is she waiting for something from you that you haven't realized? It's confusing. It's frustrating. And most of all, it's anxiety-inducing. You keep checking your phone. You replay past conversations in your head, looking for clues. Did I say something wrong? Did I miss a sign? And here's where things get even trickier. Because when someone doesn't give you closure, your mind will invent reasons to fill the gaps. Some are hopeful, some are brutal, but none of them bring peace. The truth is, silence is its own message. It's just not the kind most people are trained to interpret. We're wired to crave certainty, to know where we stand, especially with people we care about. When we don't get that, we start spiraling. We reach out too much. We overthink. We get stuck. But what if I told you this moment, this silence, isn't the end of something? What if it's actually the beginning of something far more important? Clarity, not about her, but about yourself. Think about it. How often have you let someone else's behavior dictate your peace of mind? How many times have you handed over the key to your self-worth, hoping someone would validate it? This silence is painful, yes, but it's also a mirror, showing you where your real work begins. It's not about figuring her out, it's about figuring yourself out. Your needs, your boundaries, your ability to sit with discomfort without letting it consume you. You see, in relationships, we often believe that love is about giving our time, our energy, our loyalty. And that's true, but real love, the kind that lasts, is also about recognizing when that giving turns into chasing, when attention becomes desperation, when loyalty becomes self-neglect. Here's a hard truth most won't tell you. If someone values you, you won't have to wonder where you stand. Silence, deliberate silence, is a form of communication, and it speaks volumes about priorities, about interest, and sometimes about respect. So what do you do now? You pause. You resist the urge to fill the silence with noise, with texts, with calls, with over-explaining. You step back, not to punish her, not to play games, but to protect your peace, to recenter your energy. Because here's the thing, a woman who truly values you won't need endless reminders of your worth. She will see it, respect it, and respond to it. And if she doesn't, that's not your loss. That's your clarity. Silence isn't a punishment. It's an invitation to return home to yourself, to remember that peace isn't something you beg for. It's something you build from within. So the next time you find yourself staring at that empty screen, heart racing, mind spinning, take a breath. Not because she owes you an answer, but because you owe yourself peace. And maybe, just maybe, the silence isn't there to hurt you. It's there to set you free. Let's talk about something most people get wrong, the meaning of silence. It's easy to jump to the worst conclusions when someone we care about goes quiet. We assume rejection, we assume disinterest, we assume the worst because silence feels like a void, and voids make us uncomfortable. But what if silence isn't rejection? What if instead of pushing you away, she's pulling herself back? Not out of malice, but out of protection. You see, not everyone processes emotions the same way. Some people rush toward connection when they're uncertain, others pull away. Silence can be a defense mechanism. It's a way for her to regain a sense of control when feelings get overwhelming. Pride, fear, uncertainty. They all come into play. Imagine this. She cares about you. She feels the connection. But somewhere deep inside, she's battling doubts. Maybe she's been hurt before. Maybe vulnerability feels like weakness to her. Maybe she's been taught that showing too much interest gives away her power, so instead of leaning in, she leans back. Instead of talking it through, she chooses distance. Not because she doesn't feel something, but because she feels too much and doesn't know what to do with it. If you've ever been in a situation where you wanted to reach out but didn't, or where you cared but couldn't find the right words, you know exactly what I mean. Silence is a form of self-protection. Now here's where it gets tricky. Her silence is about her, not you. But, and this is important, it's still information. It tells you where she is emotionally. It shows you her capacity for communication, for vulnerability, for connection. It's a snapshot of her current emotional bandwidth. And while you can empathize with her struggle, you have to remember, you are not responsible for managing someone else's fear. This is where a lot of people slip. They think if they just send the right text, say the right thing, show just a little more patience, they can fix the silence. But silence is not something you fix. It's something you respect. Because real connection doesn't need constant chasing. It needs mutual courage. The courage to speak, the courage to stay, the courage to be seen. So what should you do when faced with her silence? You pause. You respect her space. You resist the urge to flood her with messages or explanations. Instead, you observe. Is she using the silence to gather her thoughts or to avoid them? Is she protecting herself or pushing you away because she's not ready for the kind of connection you deserve? Here's the thing. People reveal themselves in silence more than they do with words. Anyone can say the right thing, but consistent actions, even the action of silence, will show you who they are. And I want you to ask yourself this. Can you accept the way she handles emotional pressure? Not the way you wish she would, but the way she actually does. Because how she deals with distance and uncertainty now, when things are relatively small, will tell you a lot about how she'll handle bigger issues later. Conflict, stress, challenges in life. If you find yourself constantly needing to chase for clarity, always guessing where you stand, that's not a stable foundation for a healthy relationship. A woman who's right for you won't use silence as a weapon or a wall. She might need space, and that's healthy, but she'll communicate that space with maturity and respect. She won't leave you in the dark, making you doubt your worth. Let me leave you with this thought. If silence feels like a rejection, it's an invitation to turn inward. Not to doubt yourself, not to question your value, but to recognize that real relationships don't leave you guessing. They don't drain you. They don't make you chase validation. So if you're facing silence right now, take it as a moment to recalibrate. Step back, reconnect with your center, build your peace first. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to chase an answer, it's to become the kind of man who doesn't need one. Now let's dig a little deeper, because here's something a lot of people overlook. Silence is rarely random. In fact, silence often has a strategy behind it. Let me explain. If a woman truly wanted to end things, if she wanted nothing more to do with you, her actions would be loud and clear. She'd delete your photos. She'd block your number. She'd unfollow you on every platform. She wouldn't leave any ambiguity. Clear endings come with clear actions. But when there's silence without closure, when she doesn't block you, doesn't unfollow you, doesn't erase you, that's not random. That's intentional. In many cases, it's a psychological test. Whether she realizes she's doing it or not, it's her way of stepping back and observing, watching how you behave in her absence. She's looking for signals. Will you chase her? Will you panic and flood her with messages? Will you beg for her attention? Or will you hold your ground, maintain your composure, and respect both her space and yourself? Whether consciously or unconsciously, she's gathering data. And in today's world, especially with how modern dating works, this kind of silent testing happens more often than you might think. Now this is important. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's born out of her own fear or uncertainty. But regardless of why it's happening, your response matters more than her silence. Because here's the truth. Your reaction during silence says more about your emotional maturity than anything you could text her. Let's make this practical. Imagine two scenarios. In the first, a guy feels the silence and panics. He sends a flurry of texts. Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? Why aren't you answering me? And in doing so, he hands over all his power. He shows her that her attention controls his peace of mind. In the second, a guy notices the silence but remains calm. He gives her space. He doesn't beg. He doesn't chase. Instead, he focuses on himself, his goals, his peace, his life. And in doing so, he shows that his self-worth isn't up for negotiation. Which guy do you think leaves a stronger impression? It's always the one who respects himself enough not to chase validation. And let's be honest, respect, both self-respect and mutual respect, is the foundation of any relationship worth having. Here's something to remember. Attraction isn't built during moments of comfort. It's built during moments of tension. When there's uncertainty, when emotions run high, when silence stretches longer than you'd like, that's when true character shows up. So if you're sitting in that silence right now, wondering what it means, ask yourself, what kind of man do I want to be in this moment? The kind who collapses under pressure, or the kind who rises above it? Because at the end of the day, silence has meaning. It's not just an absence of noise, it's a signal, one that invites you to show who you are without saying a word. The Stoics had a principle that fits perfectly here. We cannot control what others do. We can only control how we respond. You don't control her silence. You don't control what she feels or what she fears, but you do control your response, your composure, your dignity, your focus. And that response, calm, strong, grounded, speaks louder than any message you could send. So here's the takeaway. If her silence is a test, pass it. Not by chasing, but by standing firm. Not by demanding answers, but by being the kind of man who doesn't need them to keep moving forward. Because real strength isn't loud, it's steady. And in a world full of noise, a steady man stands out, without even trying. Let's be real. Silence triggers something deep inside us. It pokes at our insecurities. It whispers doubts into the spaces where words used to live. And if we're not careful, it pulls us into a spiral. Second-guessing ourselves, chasing after validation, reacting emotionally to what feels like rejection. But here's the truth. Silence doesn't demand a reaction, it invites a response. And those are two very different things. See, most people react to silence. They panic. They rush to fill the gap. They fire off texts, hoping to force clarity. They call. They double text. They overthink. Reaction is emotional. Response is intentional. And in the face of silence, patience, real, grounded patience, becomes your greatest advantage. Why? Because silence isn't just about her intentions. It's about your growth. Think about this. Every uncomfortable moment in life, every delay, every unanswered question, isn't just happening to you. It's happening for you. It's a test, not of your worth. That's already decided, but of your discipline, your emotional control, your self-awareness. When you sit with silence without panicking, you train yourself to resist the need for external validation. You build resilience. You move from being someone who needs certainty to someone who creates it from within. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you used silence? Not as a sign of loss, but as a chance to check in with yourself? What am I feeling right now? Why does her silence affect me this much? Am I looking for closure, or am I looking for reassurance? Because here's something powerful. How you handle silence reveals how you handle yourself. Anyone can be calm when everything is certain. It takes a different level of strength to stay calm when things are unclear. And that strength, it's magnetic. It's attractive, not just to others, but to yourself. There's a quiet confidence in a man who doesn't chase noise just to feel safe. When you sit with the discomfort of not knowing, when you don't reach for the phone, don't send that desperate text, you're telling yourself something important. I am enough, even in the silence. And believe me, that message is louder than anything you could ever say. Let's break it down practically. Instead of reacting immediately, pause. Take a step back, mentally, emotionally. Reflect, not obsess. Shift your focus from What does this silence mean about her? 2. What does my reaction say about me? Because this isn't just about understanding her. It's about understanding you. Are you calm under pressure? Are you confident when faced with uncertainty? Are you grounded enough to let things unfold naturally, without trying to control the outcome? Silence gives you the space to find out. And let's be clear, patience doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means choosing your response with wisdom instead of fear. Stoic philosophy has a timeless reminder. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You can't control her silence. You can't control whether she chooses to step back or step closer. But you can control your patience. You can control your reaction. You can control the story you tell yourself in the quiet moments. And in doing so, you build a kind of strength that doesn't just survive silence, it thrives in it. So the next time you find yourself staring at that unread message, feeling that familiar pull to react, breathe. Let the silence stretch. Let it teach you. Because while others panic, you'll be learning something far more valuable than how she feels. You'll be learning how to master yourself. And that's a lesson worth sitting with. Here's the truth most people miss. Silence isn't the end. It's not a death sentence for your connection, and it's not a rejection written in invisible ink. Silence is an opportunity to demonstrate not just your patience, but your inner strength. In the face of uncertainty, in the absence of words, the real you shows up. The man who can stay grounded when there's no validation, no clear signal, no guaranteed outcome. That's the man who's remembered. Not because he begged, not because he chased, but because he didn't flinch. And here's something worth remembering. People don't forget how you made them feel, especially when you didn't let chaos rattle you. In a world that's constantly reacting, a man who stays calm, who stays centered, who stays himself, stands out more than any grand gesture ever could. Now let's circle back to a deeper understanding. Silence often has layers. It's not always rejection. Sometimes it's strategy. She might still care. She might still think about you. But she's keeping her distance, not to push you away forever, but to see how you handle her absence. Are you going to crack under the pressure? Are you going to lose your cool and validate her fears about men being emotionally reactive or needy? Or are you going to stay steady, showing without words that you are a man who doesn't lose himself based on someone else's choices? Small signs might still be there if you're paying attention. A like on an old post, a quote shared on her story that seems oddly timed, a song that just happens to show up in your feed. These aren't accidents. These are subtle signals, quiet reminders that while she's silent, she's not absent. And yet, here's where real maturity comes in. You don't chase those signs. You don't overanalyze them. You notice them, and you stay calm. You respect the space between you, because the right connection doesn't need to be forced. It finds its way back when both people are ready. So what's your job in the silence? It's not to decode her behavior. It's not to outguess her intentions. It's to stay grounded, to keep living, to keep building yourself into the man you're meant to be, with or without her validation. And here's a final thought I want to leave you with. True strength isn't shown in how loudly you demand attention. It's shown in how quietly you command respect. Let your silence, your patience, your discipline, your calm speak louder than any text you could send. Because in the end, she won't remember the messages you didn't send. She'll remember the strength you didn't need to explain. Stay strong, stay grounded, and let silence work for you, not against you.